Welcome to me, where suspenseful, thrilling, and mysterious stories will draw you into a world where the lines between reality and fantasy seem to blur. When the night falls, when all the sounds gradually quiet down, leaving only your own heartbeat and breathing, that's when these stories begin. Tensions, unsolved mysteries, moments that will make you hold your breath in fear or curiosity, all are waiting for you ahead. Find a comfortable seat, dim the lights, and let this sound guide you on a journey that is not for the faint of heart. I want each of you to leave a comment sharing where you are in the world. And if you are enjoying the episodes, don't forget to give a like and subscribe to the channel now. Relax. Are you ready? If so, join me in the first story right now. Second Fair Chance. Second Fair Chance. Lord Farnsworth, thank you so much for inviting me to dinner. I want to apologize for anything I did to create tension between us and let you know how grateful I am to have this second chance to make a better impression. Well, Sir Fenwick, be assured if I didn't cherish my daughter, Charity, so much, you would never get another opportunity to make appeasement. She begged me to reconsider my dismissal of your attentions toward her. She is very taken with you, so you must not be all that horrible, maybe a little misguided when it comes to how you treat a lady of high standing, such as my beautiful daughter. I found you in a compromising position in the garden at that soiree. Still, she'll be joining us after our before-dinner sherry. I remember you made quite a showing at our fox hunt outing. You set a fine steed and contributed an experienced pair of foxhound to the pack. That proves you've had some culture to your upbringing. Yes, sir. I've been riding since I was a young boy. My friend and business partner, Sir Carlton Winslow, attorney at law, is the one with hound experience. His uncle used to train them. The pair were actually borrowed from a well-known sportsman, Lord Dudley Bragg. Ah, yes. Lord Bragg. The name suits him well. He was interested in courting Countess Diana, my sister-in-law, but she found him to be less than gentlemanly when he deserted her and Charity at the market fair. Matter of fact, that is how they made your acquaintance. Isn't that correct? You arranged for their escort home. Now she has been entertaining your friend, finds him quite attractive and courteous. Exactly, Lord Farnsworth. That's another reason it would be so advantageous for me to be able to court your daughter. We could assure each other to remain honorable. Wouldn't you agree? Or encourage each other's bad behavior. Hey, young man, I haven't forgotten what it was like to be your age, seeking female companionship. I must guard my daughter's reputation, you understand? Of course, your lordship. Wouldn't expect anything less. I assure you, my intentions are honorable. I am deeply in love with her already, and desire only the best for her. I would ask for her hand in marriage immediately, if it found favor in your eyes. But I know our societal norms demand much more formal routines. I can only pray for your approval to make me the happiest lovesick fool in London. My joy would be eternal. I can tell how eager you are, and from her behavior, I suspect she feels the very same about you. I'll give it due consideration. So, I understand you are a solicitor, making your way up in the professional standings. Do you suppose you will be able to support my daughter in the manner to which she is accustomed? I am afraid I have spoiled her, especially since her mother passed. Well, to be forthright, it will take some time to match the heights of your accomplishments. I can only hope she is agreeable to living more meagerly until I am more established. We would be rich in love, though. Unfortunately, love does not pay the bills or trade for niceties. And, ahem, it often leads to more mouths to feed. That would only increase our happiness, sir. I am more than ready to embrace whatever our future together could hold. I would be utterly devastated to walk away from a relationship with her at this point. She is my everything. I hope you understand. I'm beginning to see things your way. If I allow this to continue, we must be proper about it. Wouldn't want you scurrying off to Gretna Green to elope over the anvil, now would we? And, Lord forbid, you sneak off to Jersey. That's about as dangerous as it gets. My daughter deserves only the best. Here she comes. Now, come, dear. Thank you for joining us. You look so lovely this evening. That sea foam coloring of your flowing gown brings out the azure of your eyes. You'll have this young man drooling all through dinner. We are ready to go into the dining hall. This way, Sir Fenwick. Yes, you look very becoming as usual, Lady Charity. May I take your arm? And please, call me Riley, sir, of course. No need to be so formal, with only us present. I'll sit at the head of the table with each of you at my sides. Looks like the soup is already served. Let us begin with grace. Father, all this small talk has been charming, and I hope it has let you get to know Sir Riley better and understand what an upright gentleman he truly is. But could we get to the proverbial elephant in the room, since we are all alone and all adults? Sir Riley, dear? Yes, sir. I have an all-important question to ask of you concerning your vivacious daughter. I would very much like to make her my wife, if she will have me. But I need your blessing. Well, you don't beat about the bush now, do you? I was enjoying our lively discussions and imagining what kind of a son-in-law an aspiring lawyer would make. You seem knowledgeable and versed in a wide range of topics. You would never be a boring dinner guest. I can see by the way you look at and respond to my little girl, you are sincere in your feelings toward her. She mirrors those feelings back to you, sort of feeling like a third wheel between you two. Ha, ha. If I didn't give you my blessing, you two would probably defy me and find a way to be together any way you could, sneaking around behind my back or right under my nose. Am I right? So yes, let's make it official. What do you say? I say I need to get down on my knee and do this properly. My fair lady, Charity, would you do me the honor of becoming my wife? Yes. Oh yes. Thought you would never ask. All in this together. Why are we still here? Because we can't leave. Not yet. Who says we can't? We don't even know what we're waiting for. You don't get it, do you? This isn't about waiting. It's about figuring things out. Figuring what out? We've been over this 100 times. There's nothing left to figure out. You're wrong. There's always something left. A piece of the puzzle we're missing. Puzzles are for people with time. We don't have time. Hey guys, what you doing? Don't you dare say that. We have all the time we need. Then why do I feel like the walls are closing in? Because you're panicking. You always panic. Of course I panic. You're the one pretending everything's fine. I never said it was fine. I said we're working on it. Working on it. We're running in circles. Calm down. You're making this harder than it needs to be. Harder? It's already impossible. We're trapped in here. We're not trapped. We're contained. Contained? That's just a fancy word for stuck. No, it means there's a purpose. A reason we're still here. Stop with the reasons. I just want out. Yeah, same. I was just over there. And go where? Where do you think out even is? Anywhere but here. Anywhere I can breathe. Breathe? You've been breathing just fine. Wow, rude. Have I? Or have I been suffocating this whole time? That's dramatic. Even for you. Don't patronize me. I'm not. I'm just saying you're looking at this the wrong way. And you're saying that like you have all the answers. I never said I did. But at least I'm trying. Trying? You're the reason we're still here. Me? You think this is my fault? Of course it is. If you hadn't... Stop. Don't go there. Why not? Afraid of the truth? I'm not afraid. I just don't think blaming each other is helping. Helping? Nothing's helping. That's because you won't let it. Won't let it? I'm the only one trying to get us out of this mess. It is a bit untidy around here, to be fair. You call yelling and flailing trying? That's not trying, that's flailing. At least I'm doing something. Maybe what we need is to stop doing and start thinking. Thinking? We've been thinking ourselves into knots. Knots can be untied if we're careful. I don't want to be careful. I want to be free. You keep saying that, but you don't even know what freedom looks like. It looks like not this. Like not you. Funny. I was about to say the same thing about you. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe we're the problem. No, not we. You. Me? Don't start pointing fingers. Why not? You've been pointing them at me this whole time. Who are we pointing at? Because you don't listen. Neither do you. Enough. All of you, shut up. Who are you to tell us to... Wow. Double rude. No, I'm done with this. I've had enough of your bickering. And what do you plan to do about it? I'm going to end it. All of it. You wouldn't dare. Try me. Wait. We can talk about this. No more talking. No more excuses. Please don't. We can figure this out. Too late. It's time to let go. Let go of what? Of you. Of me? What does that even mean? It means I'm done carrying the weight of all of you. All of us? Oh, that's rich. You're the one who's always so heavy-handed. Am I? Or am I just the one who has to clean up your messes? Messes? Don't pin this on me. I didn't ask for you. And I didn't ask for you. Any of you. Aw, that's mean. Great. Here we go again. With the martyr complex. It's not a complex. It's reality. Reality? Ha! Do you even know what's real anymore? Stop it. Stop pretending like we're separate. What's that supposed to mean? It means we're not as divided as you think. It means we're all one big, happy family. Don't start with that nonsense. We're here. We're real. No, you're here because I am. That's ridiculous. We're here because we exist. You exist because I let you. I exist because you liked acid a little too much in your 20s. Let us? Oh, that's bold. What makes you think you're in charge? Because without me, there's nothing. No thoughts, no plans, no voices. Voices? You're hearing voices now? Yes, yours. Constantly. Every waking moment. Wait. Are you saying we're not real? I'm saying I don't know anymore. Well, that's convenient. Blame it on a lack of clarity. I am so real. It's not clarity I'm missing. It's control. Control? Is that what you think this is about? Yes, and I'm taking it back. Pfft. Control freak. You can't just erase us, can't I? If I created you, I can end you. You didn't create us. We've always been here. No, you're fragments, splinters of a broken mind. Broken? You're calling us broken? Look at yourself. I have. That's the problem. Someone realized he's going bald. Ha ha ha. No, you're wrong. It's not about control. Shut up. You're just as lost as the rest of us. I'm the one who knows what's going on. Stop acting like you've got all the answers. You're just pretending. Pretending? You're the one who's pretending. Pretending everything's fine when it's not. We're stuck, okay? We're stuck. And it's your fault. It's not my fault. If you just listen. Listen to what? Your delusions? You've been trapped in here for so long. You don't even know what's real anymore. I know exactly what's real. You don't get it, do you? I'm the one who holds us all together. Holds us together? You're a joke. We're falling apart, piece by piece. And it's because of you. Piece by piece. You think I'm the one who's falling apart? You're all falling apart. You don't know what it's like to be in here. To be trapped with nothing but you. I think it's great. But whatever. Enough with this. You're not trapped. You're just scared. You've always been scared. 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 I'm not the one freaking out. Look at you. You're the one who can't hold it together. Don't you dare accuse me of... I'm the one who's been stuck dealing with this mess. Trying to keep it all together. Trying? Trying isn't good enough. We're dying in here. Dying? We're not dying. You're just too loud. I'm not loud. I'm trying to fix it. Fix it? How? You can't fix anything. You're just broken. All of us are. I'm not broken. I'm not. You are. I've had enough of this. I'm leaving, whether you like it or not. You can't leave. You don't even know how. I'm taking my toys and going home. Leave? Where the hell would you go? Somewhere, anywhere but here with you. You don't get to leave. We're stuck together. This is it. You're never getting away. Enough. All of you. Just shut up. Please. Just shut up. I don't care anymore. Oh no. Now you've gone and done it. Stop. Stop yelling at me. Stop. Stop making me feel this way. We're stuck, remember? And guess what? I'm the only one who gets it. You're all lost. Lost? If I'm lost, then you are. We're all nothing in the end. Just empty voices. And you're a fat, bummed beaver with bad breath. Shut up. Just shut up. Please. No, we won't shut up. We won't let you hide anymore. You've been hiding for so long. You don't even know what it's like to be free. I am free. I can do this. I can do what? Keep pretending. Keep lying to yourself. I'm not lying. I'm not. You're all just voices. You're all in my head. We're not just voices. We're you. We're everything you've been ignoring. I can't ignore it anymore. I can't keep fighting myself. We are you. You can't fight us because we're you. No, no, no. I'm losing control. I can't stop this. You don't have to lose control. You never had it in the first place. Stop. Please stop. You can't stop us. You can't stop anything anymore. Why are you fighting? We're all in this together. We're all in this together, you and I. We're all in this together. Oh my God, seriously? You're singing now? Yeah. We're all in this together. You can't escape this, no matter how hard you try. No, you're all just pieces of me. I don't want this. I never asked for this. You don't get to decide that anymore. This is who you are. No, this isn't who I am. This isn't. We're all in this together. That was such a shitty movie, by the way. What do you mean? Grease was a great movie. Grease? It wasn't Grease. It was Rocky Horror Picture Show. No, shut up. Please. We're all in this together. It was wicked, wasn't it? That green W. Enough! Stop yelling at me. We can't. We're already screaming inside your head. I just want some peace. Can you give me that? Peace? What's peace? Do you even know what that is? Peace is, I don't know. Not this. Not this? What's wrong with this? Everything. It's chaos. It's madness. We're all in this together. Oh, God. You're still singing that. Stop it. We're all in this together, you and I. And I'm not stopping. Why are you doing this? Why can't you just leave me alone? We don't leave. We are you. You're just pieces of me. Little, obnoxious pieces. Little obnoxious pieces. I'm a star. Star? You've been singing the same song for 10 minutes. We're all in this together. We're all in this together. I'm going to lose my mind. Too late for that. You lost it a long time ago. Shut up. Just shut up. We're all in this together. We're all in this together. Ugh. Why is it always the worst one that keeps singing? I can't help it. It's a catchy tune. It's not even a good song. Who are you to judge? You're the one stuck with me. Yeah, I am. Great. Just great. Look, it's not so bad. We're all in this together. You're ruining my life. Ruining? I'm enhancing it. I'm the star of the show. No, no, you're not. You're the nightmare I can't wake up from. I'm not a nightmare. I'm the musical number. Stop singing, please. We're all in this together. I hate you so much right now. Oh, come on, you love me. Never, ever again. We're all in this together. Can you just die already? Nope. I'm here for the long haul, buddy. I swear. If I hear one more note, we're all in this, No! Stop! Together. This is my life now, isn't it? Yep, you're stuck with us. I'm gonna lose it. You already did. Henry was average in almost every measure of the word. He worked in a company that, like himself, was totally and completely ordinary. Nothing he did on a day-to-day basis mattered. And that was just the way he liked. All that changed, however, when he showed up to his office one day. He'd been there for a few hours at this point, mindlessly typing away at his keyboard, when a thought occurred to him. Why had it been so quiet? Now, usually, he was the first one to the office and quickly settled into his desk. He would close the door and get lost in a sea of numbers and words. Still, though, Henry would always hear some chatter from behind his door. Maybe the beep of the copier or the laugh of a joke. Never had it been utterly silent like this. Henry tried to get out of his mind. He tried to continue with his work. Henry continued typing. Usually, his work soothed Henry. But now, a growing sense of uneasiness filled him. Somehow, he knew that if he stopped working and dared to open his office door, everything he loved about his life would come to an end suddenly and horrifically. Henry continued typing. Henry knew that he couldn't keep mindlessly typing at his keyboard. So, he decided to get up and investigate what was happening. Henry continued typing. It appeared that Henry didn't want to follow the laid-out structure of the story. Perhaps he thought that if he kept typing and doing his work, all this wouldn't be happening. That's the spirit, Henry. Bravo. You figured it out. Well done. But seriously, don't you think it's time to face the inevitable and open the door? Henry continued typing. All right, you win, Henry. I'll leave you alone now and let you live out the rest of your life in ignorant bliss. Goodbye, Henry. Henry paused and stood up. He walked over to his door and opened it slowly. Henry couldn't pretend to keep working any longer. He walked over to his door and tossed the door open, as if to say, I don't fear the situation I am currently in. In fact, I am Henry, and I laugh in the face of danger. The door slammed against the wall and revealed an empty office. The brave protagonist decided to get to the bottom of this. Henry walked carefully out of his office. Then, he walked down a hallway and stopped at a set of stairs. The left set went up, and the right set went down. Upon coming to a set of stairs, Henry took the one on his left. Henry paused for a moment before heading down the right set of stairs. For some reason, beyond all common sense, Henry decided to take the stairs on the right. He surely knew that there was nothing at the bottom of those as he descended each step. After all, he'd been an employee at the company for, I don't honestly know how long. My, how embarrassing. Well, let's say longer than a year and less than 100 years. Yes, I'm quite happy we've come to an agreement. Henry reached the bottom of the stairs. He looked around and saw nothing there except for a bucket. He walked over and picked up the bucket, then headed back up the stairs. Ah, yes, the bucket. Quite a crucial piece of the story. I'm glad you spent all that time walking to the bottom of the stairs for a bucket. Henry made his way to the original fork in the stairs and went up this time. An eerie feeling began to creep into Henry. He hoped that maybe he had just missed a memo and everyone was in an early morning meeting. They were rare, but did happen from time to time. Once he reached the top of the stairs, he walked through an open door and into the meeting room. Henry clutched at the bucket dearly. The bucket was a soothing presence for Henry and comforted him. He needed every bit of comfort he could manage because the meeting room was completely empty. Not a sign of life except for half a box of donuts from the day before. Henry quickly walked through the room and into the hallway. After a short while, he came to 3 closed doors. On the left was a red door. In the middle was a purple door. On the right was a green door with a sign on the front that read, "Do not enter unless you wish to be fired." Henry knew he should enter the door on the right because that was his boss's office. If someone knew what was happening, it would be his boss. He would have to risk the chance of being fired. Henry walked over to the red door and turned the handle. He pulled on the door. It rattled, but didn't open. Without a second doubt, Henry knew he should go his boss's office. So, he entered the door on his right, the green door. Henry walked over to the purple door and turned the handle, then pulled on the door. It rattled, but didn't open. Ahem. Perhaps I wasn't clear. Henry walked over to the green door and walked inside his boss's office. Does nobody have respect for a good story anymore? It's a good thing I remembered to lock those doors. Henry opened the green door and walked inside. When Henry walked inside his boss's office, to no one's surprise, it was empty. There was nothing but a solid wood desk and huge bookcases on each side. At that moment, Henry resigned himself to a life of solitude. He was sure that he was going to spend the rest of his miserable life in complete and utter isolation. And he was okay with that. Come to think of it, he never really liked having his co-workers around, did he? Sure, he didn't hate the small talk or the company meetings, but he was certain he could come to terms with being without. It may even allow him to focus more completely on his work. Then, a horrible thought crossed his mind. How would he work if there was no one to send his completed documents to? Truly a tough one. That's it. Henry will be the worker and the boss. Yes, that's genius. This way, he can continue to play out his mundane life and find some semblance of happiness. Well, I guess that's it then. Henry spent the rest of his time working away at his desk, while occasionally walking up the stairs and approving all his glorious work. Henry really was a superb and hard-working employee. Henry still stood in his boss's office. He stared at a big red button that said, "Do not touch," in big letters. He walked over to it and pressed it. Oh, Henry. What did you think would happen when you pressed the button? Setting aside the obvious fact that it was clearly stated for you not to touch, did you think that by pressing the button, you could fight against the system? Fight against your fate? Fight against me? Ha ha ha. I applaud your resilience, Henry. Truly. Henry pressed the button again. Okay. This is starting to get pathetic now, Henry. How about you just head back to your office, and we'll go with the ending I already planned out for you. I know you, Henry. I know that you need someone to tell you what to do, and that without that, you can't function. So, I am telling you now, Henry, to turn around and go to your office and get back to work. Henry pressed the button again. The building shook, and Henry had to brace himself to avoid falling over. Henry, why did you do that? Didn't I just give you a direct order? If you press that button again, Henry pressed the button again. The building shook more violently this time. It shook until Henry felt like he might pass out. Then it all stopped at once. Henry waited, bucket firmly in hand, for a long time in that office. Henry waited until he felt like it was long enough. Finally, there was no one telling him what he should think or how he should act. It was a freeing sensation, but also a deeply disturbing one. Perhaps he would have been better off blindly listening to that voice, but it was too late to second-guess himself now. So, he turned around and headed back to his office. Henry looked down at his watch. Almost time for lunch. Fear. Switch. My eyes were wide open now, pupils dilated, and blood freezing in my veins. I felt like my heart was going to jump out of my chest to get away from it all, since I couldn't. It was as if I had encountered Medusa and was turned to stone. I guess, if you think about it, the last feeling you're left with forever, when you realize your entire life will amount to nothing but a petrified, cold figure, is exactly this. Fear. Pure fear. The kind that makes you realize there is no escape, no chance to do anything to help yourself. These kinds of things never crossed my mind, 'cause I avoid situations that make me uncomfortable, anxious, and especially afraid. I'm not an adventurous person, someone who would seize the moment rather than regret it. But somehow, I ended up here, so scared that I'm unable to move, feeling a terrifying scream caught in my throat, unable to let it out, to even say a word, to ask for help. I knew I should have gotten out of this situation the moment I realized what I had gotten myself into. I shouldn't have come here. It all started this morning when my twin sister, Anne, asked me to go on a boat ride with her. She said she had booked it in advance and had been so excited to go with her fiancé. They paid for and prepared everything, but he got called into work, and she didn't know what to do because they couldn't cancel. She didn't want to go alone. I couldn't say no. I could already see the disappointment on her face, so I agreed to go. I wasn't a big fan of the ocean, but a boat ride didn't seem too bad or demanding. After all, I'd just have to attend and sit through it. My mistake was not paying much attention to her yapping when she told me about it. Her speech was rousing, and I couldn't interrupt and ask her to start over because I wasn't listening. So I ended up on a boat facing my oldest fear. The floating horror in question arrived to pick us up when I realized what I had gotten myself into. I can't believe you're actually doing this with me. I mean, coral reef scuba diving is something anyone would love, but it's such a depth. I thought you had some sort of sea phobia, Anne said. My heart started racing, and I sat down for a moment. I tried to breathe and control my distress, denying my thalassophobia, badly remembered by my sister, after she nagged me about our childhood and how she knew I told her something similar. I finally convinced her to stop searching for my deepest fears. Unlike Anne, I never forgot how everyone laughed at me when I confided in them. I couldn't bear being mocked again, especially now when I'd rather drown than do this. I had to get out of this boat, out of this situation. My palms were sweating, and I could hear my pulse in my ears. Boat engine starts. Oh no! Nope! No way. This can't be happening, I thought, worst case scenarios flooding my mind. I felt like living all of them, from the overthinking that made my body tense and weak in sudden shifts. I think I'm going to be sick. I feel dizzy. I can't do this. I hated feeling this way, trapped between pessimism and irrational fear. Usually, I use overthinking to my advantage, avoiding anything that would inconvenience me, not to help me escape a real threat or possible deadly situation after filtering it through my thinking. What am I doing? What will I do? I am losing precious time in which I could have found an excuse to turn this boat around. My mind can't work under this pressure, and my body sure isn't very helpful. What's wrong? You seem kind of pale. I hope you're still up for this. I'm so excited to do this with you, Anne. I couldn't let her down. Not when she had that spark in her eyes. A spark I hadn't seen since we were kids. She looked like a 5-year-old on Christmas morning. And maybe I was just being paranoid. Don't worry. I won't ruin this for you. It's just a little motion sickness. I treacherously lied to my sister, with whom I had shared everything my whole life. I couldn't tell her the truth out of fear she'll laugh at me, and I would no longer feel just afraid, but also ashamed and upset. Well then, stop overthinking. As long as you don't get swimming sickness, you'll be fine. We're almost there. Anne smiled warmly, in her specific way that usually melted my worries. But now, it only calmed me enough to avoid turning into a lunatic. We started putting on our equipment as we moved farther and farther into the deep ocean. 1,000 meters? 2,000 meters? It's been a while since we were able to see any land. I didn't want to think about the depth we were at, so I kept telling myself it wasn't that deep. Our ride wasn't longer than an hour, but the motorboat moved fast. Stop it. I won't think about this anymore. Meanwhile, my sister explained the use of everything in our gear and the emergency action plan that we shouldn't get in much detail with because it's just a precaution, as she learned in her training. I would describe it to you, but my mind got blank, and I can't remember a word she said. Sometimes I'm having a hard time paying attention when something else is bothering me, so my thoughts spiraled elsewhere. It was time to enter the water in order to be done and on our way by sunset. Anne dove in head first, waiting for me. I entered slowly from the edge. I think by this time it was clear I wasn't thrilled to do this, so she waited to make sure I'd actually follow her. I wasn't afraid of water or swimming, and the ocean was calm today. If the waves had matched my anxiety, I wouldn't have come this far. I closed my eyes and submerged myself. The world around me and all my worries vanished briefly. I felt weightless and my mind cleared. But the quiet was deafening, and it would soon turn eerie. Once I got used to the feeling, I opened my eyes and my stomach tightened. I felt so small and exposed. All I could see was water, shades of blue forming a bottomless void, darker and darker when you dared to venture below. My sister was having a blast. Her eyes were wide and curious, and her smile kept widening. She pulled my hand to go deeper. I didn't like that idea, but losing myself in this place, with no landmarks to help me navigate for sure, wasn't better. We swam, and I focused on inhaling and exhaling slowly to calm myself, counting every breath rather than the minutes I still had to endure this. 56, 57, 58. I kept swimming slowly to avoid getting tired. What if I reached exhaustion here and didn't have the strength to return to the surface? Cynical me gets all kinds of ideas, but they aren't important now, since I have bigger things to worry about. I hoped my sister would get bored faster so we could get out of here. It wasn't long until I saw it. At first, I thought we'd been down here for hours, and the sky had darkened with nightfall. But I knew I was wrong, because a few moments later, the lighting changed again. I could see the warm daylight filtering through the surface, like it does through tree branches. 120, 121, 122. Anne noticed it too, and looked up. But the surroundings above us didn't seem to have changed. The second time it happened, it was more sudden and got even darker than before. But like the first time, it faded before our eyes could adjust. I started to worry because I realized faster than Anne what was happening. My body was overcome with fatigue, and I was distressed. You could see the unsettling look on my face as I glanced at my sister, too afraid to check the surroundings. Unlike me, Anne let her reflexes kick in and looked up and down to figure things out. She wasn't agitated or scared. She just lost the charming smile she'd had moments ago and now looked serious. I wanted to curl up and hide. My heart pounded in my chest, so I started to slowly close my eyes, trying to disappear for a second. Just then, my sister grabbed my hand. She managed to pull me just a bit closer, and when I opened my eyes, I saw it. 134, 135, 136, 137. We were both stunned, and it felt like the whole world stopped. I tried to keep breathing, but it felt as though this place and I were frozen in time. It was right in front of us, and I could only see a small part of it, yet it was massive. I couldn't comprehend the size difference in that moment. Its big eye was staring at us, cold and emotionless. This is how my nightmares always began. I would see it and try to swim away, but never managed to escape before waking up. It would catch me and swallow me whole. But in my mind, I imagined the stories you are told as a kid, or the ones you see in movies. This was entirely different. Facing a gigantic whale, feeling it look through your fears, not knowing what to do, or if you'll live to see tomorrow. 149, 150, 151. My eyes were wide open now, pupils dilated, and blood freezing in my veins. I felt like my heart was going to jump out of my chest to get away from it all. Since I couldn't, I didn't know what to do. I wanted to swim to shore, but I was too afraid. I thought that moment would never end until I felt it. Anne grabbed my feet and pushed me toward the surface. 171, 172, 173, 174. After she gave me that boost, I felt like I had the strength to keep going. I swam as fast as I could, not looking back to avoid letting fear overwhelm me. I could see the surface, the sun, and in no time, the sky and the boat. I scrambled in, and as soon as I felt the solid ground beneath my feet, I rubbed my eyes and tried to adjust them to the light as quick as possible. 226, 227,228. I looked in all directions. Water, water, water. All I could see was the damn ocean. I waited a little more, kept looking, but there was nothing. Exhaustion and despair washed over me. I kept searching in sight, but it was hopeless. I couldn't see Anne anywhere. I collapsed onto the cold wooden deck, and tears started rolling down my cheeks. I felt like I was falling apart, so I just stood there for a while, sobbing. I thought about how foolish I'd been not to tell her. Everyone laughed at me for nothing. If I had just told her, she would have understood why I didn't want to do this. I was terrified of whales. Maybe we would have turned back, and this would never have happened. I'm sorry. I kept whispering through my sobs. I knew no one would laugh at me now. I wished I had conquered my fear earlier, so I could have been the one to give her one more breath to take. The end, the woman, and the beast. Professor Manda entered the lecture hall, and the entire auditorium fell silent upon noticing her presence. She tapped the floor as she walked in her blocked purple heels, which complemented her purple and green Ankara dress. Her braided hair was styled in a small bun, and she adorned her normal-sized earlobes with silver earrings. She looked the part as she stood in front of the people. She was the wife, the mother, and the first woman professor in her town. She stood at the podium and leaned forward into the microphone. She began to speak. It is said that a woman of greatness never sleeps at night. In the light of day, she is loved and respected by all, but in the stillness of the night, she is haunted by her own shadow. She paused to pose a question. What happens when you take a woman from the land she walks on and place her in waters that could either drown her or feed her to the creatures of the sea? Taking a sip of the black coffee prepared for her at the podium, laced with a shot of Irish whiskey at her request, she savored the acquired taste and answered her own question. I'll tell you one thing that a woman I know did when she didn't drown or get eaten. She floated in the water for as long as she could. Eventually, she started to swim in search of land, even territory that did not belong to her. Her instinct to survive became desperate when she discovered a small island in the middle of nowhere. She fell asleep for a while, only to wake up to the sound of her stomach growling. Her mouth was dry from a lack of water, and her body felt heavy since she hadn't eaten for days. Despite this, one thing grew stronger: a desperate need to survive at all costs. The water around her was calm, and while her body was weak, only her eyes showed signs of movement. She dived into the water and caught a large fish by its tail. The fish struggled for freedom, but she was too quick, pulling it out of the water, depriving it of air, and sinking her teeth into its flesh. Days passed, and her life began to change as she learned to survive in the wild. During the day, she enjoyed sleeping, but when the moon rose, her eyes shone brighter because it was time to feed. All the small animals glared at her, the heartless intruder who killed them with no mercy. She fed on their uncooked flesh and stored their remains in the cool ground under the trees. The woman destroyed the homes of other creatures to build her own, cutting down trees to make a house. She had crossed the line that separates humans from animals. She had become like one of them, another creature in the world struggling to survive. The heat of the sun and the cold rain had not killed her. Her body was shaped like steel. Her muscles bulged, her hair had grown wild, and her eyes resembled those of a mad woman. Yet, her need to survive had only grown stronger. This need had driven her out of her own humanity and transformed her into a beast. After all, who better than a beast could survive in such harsh conditions? With focus, the beast performed its tasks, replacing soft human hands with hard, strong ones. The brutal environment was suited only for a beast. Thus, she adapted to the harsh world that had transformed her body into that of the beast. One sunny day, the beast managed to push the makeshift raft into the ocean, battling against the waves as it sailed away. Looking back at the small island, the woman reclaimed what was left of her body and felt a pain in her chest. The hope she once had now returned in double amounts. Her raft sailed on the dark sea the entire night, but she was not afraid. While her vision may have been affected, her other senses were as sharp as a shaka's spear. In the morning, she could see the mainland in the distance. Hungry and tired, she thought about her favorite meal, enshima, cabbage, and dried fish. She remembered how her mother used to cook it for her, and the gentle voice that would wake her in the morning. Tears fell from her eyes as she finally felt human again. As she gazed at the mainland, she smiled and tried to scream, but her smile was crooked, and her scream was more of a whisper because the beast could neither smile nor scream. People looked at her in wonder, asking each other how the woman had managed to survive in the wild. They called her great and erected a monument in her memory. Books about her were written, and children learned of her bravery. Many years went by, but she never forgot her past, because the beast's eyes would stare back at her in the mirrors of her house. She couldn't accept the fact that without the beast, she wouldn't be alive. The audience was quiet, expecting more of an explanation from the professor's strange story. Then she cleared her throat and took another sip of her coffee. As the hot liquid went down her throat, she said shakily, "Only losers drown in earthly miseries or die by becoming a beast. Sometimes, just sometimes, one has to become a nightmare in order to live in her dreams. And with that comes the consequences of that decision." There was dead silence after that. Then, after a minute, a faint clap sparked the whole crowd to applaud and finally give her a standing ovation. Professor Manda walked to a covered figure and unveiled an erected statue of her at the entrance of the auditorium. Many students flocked to her to get their copies of her latest book signed. The day felt long, and she was thankful it had finally come to an end as she entered her house at midnight. She staggered to her children's bedroom and saw that they were sleeping. The coffee had done its job, making her feel tipsy. She entered her own room and was greeted by her husband's loud snoring. As she stepped further inside, she took off her earrings and placed them on her vanity table. However, when she looked up, she suddenly screamed at the reflection staring back at her. The shadows beneath, I always had an irrational fear of the dark. Not in the typical sense, where shadows seemed to slither and stretch out from the corners of my room at night, but in the more insidious way, where the darkness crept into my mind. It was a quiet terror, the feeling that something was watching, waiting for me to slip. But lately, that fear had intensified. I could no longer tell where the line between reality and nightmare began to blur. It started innocuously enough. Strange dreams, vivid and unsettling. They were always the same. A vast, endless hallway with doors lining the walls, each leading to a room I had never seen. But the worst part was the figure at the end of the hall. It was always the same faceless shadow. A person, but not a person. Its form indistinguishable from the pitch-black night surrounding it. One night, it was different. I woke up drenched in sweat, my heart pounding in my chest. The hallway from my dream stretched out before me, just like in my sleep. Only now, it felt real. The floor was cold under my bare feet, the air heavy with the scent of mildew. I froze, knowing that something was wrong, but unable to move. My eyes darted around the familiar room that now felt alien. My instinct screamed at me to run. But where? To hide from what? Suddenly, a noise broke the silence. A creak from the far end of the hallway. The figure had moved closer. My breath hitched as I saw it again, standing at the far end, a dark silhouette against the backdrop of the hallway's dim glow. No matter how many times I tried to look away, the shape seemed to grow, inch by inch, its presence more overwhelming. I tried to scream, but no sound came. Panic surged as I tried to turn back to my room, but my legs wouldn't obey. Each step I took towards the hallway was heavier than the last, as if the darkness was pulling me in, urging me closer to the shadow. Then, for a split second, I saw its face, or rather, the absence of it. Where eyes should have been, there was only an empty, swirling void, a vortex of my worst memories. All the faces, all the fears I had ever tried to bury, resurfaced in that hollow, unblinking stare. In that moment, I understood. The figure wasn't some external terror. It was the manifestation of all the things I feared about myself. My fear was me. I was something that needed to be feared. But why? Why do I need to be afraid of myself? And then, in the middle of my terror, something shifted. I began to understand that the nightmare wasn't about running, hiding, or avoiding the figure. It was about confronting it, acknowledging what it represented. I had lived my life trying to hide myself, my true self, the real me. But the more I avoided, the more it controlled me. The shadow wasn't just a fear. It was a reflection of my own unresolved past that I needed to confront, or I needed to remember something that explained everything, explained why I was different. Taking a deep breath, I did the one thing I had never dared to do. I approached the figure. As I walked towards it, the air thickened, the darkness pressing in on all sides. But I kept going. The closer I got, the less the shadow seemed to loom. The face, or what should have been a face, began to soften, its edges blurring, until it was just a shadow once again, no more real than the fears I had allowed to dominate my life. My heart still raced, but there was a strange sense of clarity. I wasn't running anymore. I wasn't hiding. I had confronted the darkest part of myself and survived. And now I remembered. I remembered everything. The darkness around me began to recede, the hallway dissolving into nothing. I was back in my room, sitting up in bed, the morning light creeping in through the blinds. My breathing was steady now, my mind clear. For the first time in years, the shadows no longer seemed so terrifying, for I had conquered it. The only thing that ever got anything out of me, because now I knew. Now I remembered the truth. The truth about who I am, the monster that I carried within me. It didn't want to stay buried anymore. It was clawing through my skin to let loose. I had controlled it my whole life. It was time everyone felt what I felt. Everyone had to be afraid of my fear. Everyone deserved to face my fear. Everyone should fear me for who I am. I sat on the edge of my bed, the warmth of the morning sun pressing through the curtains. My mind still buzzed with the after effects of the nightmare. No, not a nightmare, I corrected myself, but a revelation. It wasn't something I could easily shake off. The fear of the dark, the shadow that had haunted me for so long, still lingered in the corners of my mind. But now there was something different, a strange sense of power, knowing the truth. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the world beyond. The trees swayed in the breeze, and the sky was clear, but a lingering thought gnawed at me. My phone buzzed, snapping me out of my thoughts. It was a text from my best friend, Mia. "Hey, how are you today? You seemed off last night. Wanna talk?" Oh, so now she wants to talk, is it? With a deep breath, I typed a reply. "I had a strange dream last night. I think it was more than just a dream, though. Something shifted in me." Mia's reply came almost instantly. "That sounds intense. Want to meet up? You can tell me about it." I felt annoyed, but then I typed, "Let's meet at the cafe later." Mia was my best friend, but it always felt like she always only reached out when she wanted something. I had always been good at reading people. I knew Mia was selfish, but I always hanged out with her because she was also one of the most popular girls in college, which gave my life normalcy. I never understood any emotion. I just mimicked everything I saw. I always knew something was different about me, but today I knew why. As I prepared for the day, I couldn't shake the sense that something had changed within me. The shadow I had confronted might have vanished for now, but it had left a trace that was now pushing me to look deeper inside myself, to explore what was beneath the surface. Later that afternoon, I arrived at the cafe. Mia was already there, sipping a cappuccino and scanning her phone. She looked up when I entered, her face lighting up with a welcoming, fake smile. I was now sure that Mia needed something. The strength needed to suppress the urge to eye roll was tiring. Sometimes I wondered, why do I even bother? I took a seat across from her, the comforting hum of the cafe's atmosphere easing my nerves. I glanced around the cafe. It's strange, really, how people go on with their lives, oblivious to the fact that they're just players in a game I'm not really interested in. They feel things, you know, emotions like guilt or joy or sadness. They let these things rule them. But not me. I don't let emotions get in the way. They're distractions. Why should I feel anything when I can see things so clearly? Take today, for example. I'm sitting across Mia at a cafe, and she's talking about her day. Something trivial, like how her boyfriend Cole was rude, or how her coffee wasn't as hot as she'd wanted it. I can see her eyes light up when she talks, how she leans in slightly, waiting for my response. She thinks I'm listening, that I care, but I don't. The words she's saying don't matter. The only thing that matters is how she behaves, how I react to things she says, how she trusts me, how she looks at me like I'm someone worth sharing her thoughts with. I give my just enough attention to keep her interested. That's all I need. I can tell what she's going to say next without even having to think about it. People are predictable. They are creatures of habit. Emotions are just their patterns, their responses to external stimuli. They don't make them special. They're just machines that respond to certain things, like I do. The difference is, I don't get tangled in those responses. They're useful, though. Understanding them, manipulating them, it's like a game of chess. You move them around until they do what you want. She said that we could talk about my dream. But here we are, talking about how awful of a boyfriend Cole is. I just hope she doesn't cry. Because today, I don't think I can put up with this anymore. Cole just yelled at her for not deleting an Instagram post he didn't like. He never understood her. She says it like it matters. The vulnerability in her voice, that little crack that betrays the illusion of control. It's almost amusing. People talk about their wounds like they're sacred, like they're somehow beyond reproach. But what they don't realize is that they're just vulnerabilities. And if you're smart, you can use them. I watch her carefully, noting the way her hand shakes slightly as she stirs her drink. She's nervous now, about something. I nod, pretending to care, like I'm reflecting on what she said. I don't care about her boyfriend or her pain. I care about what makes her tick, how I can twist her perceptions just enough to get what I want. It's not about hurting her, not necessarily. It's about control, power, and in this world, people give up their power so easily. They open up to you, they trust you, and once they do, they're mine. Her phone vibrates. She picks it up, looks at it first with anger, then confusion, then sadness. I don't need to wonder what it is about. She will tell me about it eventually. She always does, She smiles, reassured. She thinks I understand her, thinks I'm someone she can confide in. She's wrong. I finished my drink. Her face lit up with the self-satisfaction of someone who feels understood, who's shared their deepest secrets with someone they think cares. Do you have a crush on Cole? She asks suddenly, her expression a mixture of hurt and anger. Now, where was this coming from? Sometimes people do throw a curveball at you, but if you are someone like me, you always know how to dodge it. What? No, I said, trying to convey an emotion that I wasn't feeling. She stares at me, trying to read me. Unlike me, she wasn't good at reading people. Hence, she was in a relationship with an idiot like Cole. He was hot, all right. He had a handsome face, body that girls went mad over, and that bad boy attitude that had girls dropping like flies all over the campus. Also, he was nutty as a fruitcake. He had a personality of an Adidas sandal. She thinks that staring at me intently may intimidate me into telling her something. I just don't care about her or her pathetic boyfriend anymore. It seemed like a staring contest between us. She doesn't know that I've already moved on. I've already seen her for what she is. Predictable, simple, and just another piece on the board. I've won, and she hasn't even realized it. Cole and I had a fight yesterday. You know about the Instagram post I told you about? Then he went on saying about how smashing hot you are. Brad and Nate agreed with him. I got a little mad. I mean, I know you are hot, but please, why does he care when he is dating like the hottest girl on the campus? She said, looking at me to affirm her belief. I just stared back, because I don't even care anymore. She just continued, after a minute of reassuring herself about her hotness. Cole left after that, but Nate stayed back to see if I was all right. And then he said that Cole has been getting a little obsessed with you lately, ever since he came back from visiting his sister's family at Jacksonville. Now this is interesting. Jacksonville is where I was born, also the place where it all began. Now what is that steroid-filled Adidas sandal up to? Looks like he isn't as much nutty. I just smiled at her. Oh, come on, girl. I wouldn't even talk to Cole. You know me. I would never betray my bestie for another man. You know sisters before meisters. He will never come between us. In fact, he will never hurt you again. I said, smiling, knowing that the steroid-filled balloon needs to be popped. Mia is too important for my normal image, as much as annoying she is. She is an important piece in my chessboard. I still had a year left in college, after all. Satisfied, she gets up to leave, and I watch her walk away. She's happy, content. She thinks we've shared something meaningful. That's the beauty of it. The beauty of not caring. People will always be eager to give you what they think you want. They'll hand over their trust, their secrets, their love. If you know how to ask for it. If you know how to play the game. I look out the window, the sunlight spilling through the glass. The shadows outside, stretched long and dark across the street, no longer seemed as menacing. The shadow hadn't vanished entirely, but it didn't need to. It was part of my story, part of what made me who I am. And by facing it, I had taken control over my own narrative. As I sat there thinking, I felt a sense of clarity I hadn't experienced before. There was still work to do, still parts of myself to uncover and accept. But I wasn't afraid to keep moving forward. After all, the worst of it, the part that had kept me locked in fear, was already behind me. My phone vibrated. Hey, it was a text from Cole. I called him. I just couldn't text him, for I already knew everything. I asked him to meet me at the Lover's Cliff. It was just a secluded cliff on the top where all of them went to make out. Cole, the steroid-fueled cupcake, thought I asked him to meet there because I wanted to make out. I drove and waited for him there. I was scared. Not because he was walking slowly towards me and looking at me like a predator looking at his prey, but because I knew the truth. I was the big bad wolf, and he was just the shepherd who cried wolf. I slowly and seductively walked towards him. Licking my lips, I watched him follow my action. I have a secret? I asked, my voice barely a whisper, as if it were a secret in itself. Yes, he said, smiling and reaching in front of me. And you know about it? I asked, trying to look serious and running my nails slowly along his chest and going around his neck. Yes, he said, smirking and holding my waist. I shivered a little as his fingers made exotic patterns on the exposed skin of my waist. I pulled him closer to my face by his neck and played with his soft hair. And this secret is what? I whispered slowly, our lips almost touching. You don't know about it yet, he said, looking at my lips with lustful eyes. Let me get this straight. I have a secret that I don't know about, but you know about it? I kissed him, giving him exactly what he wanted. The kiss was slow at first, then it turned to a battle for domination. He thinks he knows me. He believes he knows my secret. I let him get his way for a few seconds, and then pulled his hair, which made him open his mouth, and I let my tongue in to show him how it's done. He didn't mind, really. Two can play the game. He was about to grab my ass when suddenly I pushed him, and down he fell. I am sorry. You knew my secret. You had to die. Nothing personal, really. For what it's worth, you were a good kisser, I shouted, looking down the cliff at his falling figure, my hair flowing back and laughing maniacally. Search, and you might find. Search, and you might find. I am an independent journalist, living in a world of news spilling out at an unprecedented rate in the history of mankind. Much of it was false, without any factual evidence. Lies and untruths seemed to be the norm. Each morning, when I opened my computer or picked up the mail, it took a good hour to sort through the garbage. Today, I had a pleasant surprise. An invitation from an old friend to spend a quiet weekend in his country manor. It was about 2 years ago since I last saw him at Penelope's wedding. We had a bet their marriage would not last 5 years. As far as I knew, she was still married. But she remained a very demanding woman. At the university, I had been a very close friend of George Webster. He was now Sir Webster, a member of Parliament. He was a pleasant chap, with a head of white hair and a round, chubby face with distinctive blue eyes. He had a corpulent body, no doubt, from hearty meals and plenty of drinking. His wife was quite the opposite, with a slender profile and reddish hair arranged like a beehive on the top of her head. She had a wicked sense of humor and was always enjoyable company. I was looking forward to a quiet weekend in the country. I arrived an hour before dinner to face a manor built 200 years ago. George inherited it from his parents. I remember the parties here when we were students at the university. His parents were great hosts, always inviting a selection of pretty young girls. I believe they wanted to make sure George meets the young people they approved of. George came leaping to the front door and hugged me with great affection. I will get the maid to show your room. No need to dress for dinner. We will only be us 3. Come down to the drawing room in half an hour for cocktails. While George handed me a whiskey, I warmly embarrassed his wife. Nothing had changed. The beehive on the top of her head was still in place. I am always delighted to be served at dinner with good food and stimulating conversation. His wife left us the moment an excellent cigar and cognac were forthcoming. Once George's cigar was lit, he spoke. David, do you remember that time at the university I taught you how to catch butterflies? Sure I do. Why are you still an ardent collector and improving your collection? If I remember correctly, you were obsessed with butterflies. Bring your cognac and come with me. I want to show you something. We went down a small passage. At the end was a locked door. George took a key from his pocket, opened the door, and switched on a series of overhead spotlights. I have never seen such a beautiful show of hundreds of butterflies with their vibrant and delicate colors. The room was about 26 square meters, with waist-high side oak cabinets surrounding all the 3 walls. The upper 3 walls were covered with 3 large frames of magnificent pinned butterflies. I could see each frame was labeled with the title of 3 continents: the Americas, Europe, and Africa. I stood there, bewildered, completely stunted by the beauty of the room. As I walked in, I noticed a large, comfortable couch in the middle of the room. It was unusual in that it had two sides, allowing one to change their position in order to view all sides of the room. In front of each side of the couch was a coffee table. I turned around to view the wall in which the door was positioned. The wall was covered with a wall-to-wall library. George suggested we should sit down. As you notice, I specialize in rare butterflies from 3 land masses. You will notice there is a gape of 2 butterflies in the Americas display. 1 the European and 2 on the African. Under each butterfly, I always mark the date and place it was found. According to my book collection and extensive research, these butterflies represent extremely rare spies. I like to think it is one of the world's greatest collections, representing hundreds of hours of travel and research. To be complete, I need to fill in the 5 missing specimens. George, it is totally amazing. The display of these remarkably beautiful creatures makes one feel belittled when compared with the creations of nature. What's in the drawers below? More butterflies that I thought were interesting on my travels, searching for that rare specimen, as I am known throughout the world as a collector. I have a network of people that inform me that they have seen a rare butterfly. The world has many well-informed amateurs interested in these creatures. In fact, last week, I had a call from a friend in Zimbabwe saying that a flame-bordered carex had been sighted near Victoria Falls. This is one of the extremely rare butterflies I am missing in my collection. Unfortunately, at this time, I cannot leave for Victoria Falls. David, do you want a free 2-week holiday in Zimbabwe? I don't understand. So, well, you could go and spend a few days looking for this rare butterfly. I know you are very careful in netting butterflies without damaging them. The whole trip would be my expense. Supposing I did net this rare butterfly, how would I get it out of the country? No doubt these creators are protected by strict export laws. You are right, and collectors like me have to be very careful. In the case of Zimbabwe, I would ask you to deliver the specimen to a friend in the capital, Harare. He will then carefully pin it into an old collection of common butterflies that Victorian families love to collect and frame. He will then ship it out to a London antique dealer. This rare butterfly, mixed in an old frame, will go unnoticed by the customs. I can see you are well versed in extracting these treasures from various countries. I have never been to Victoria Falls. They say it is one of the world's spectacular sights. If I agree to go, would there be somebody there to meet me? Yes, my contact would meet you at Victoria's airport and take you to your hotel. He will be your guide the whole trip. I suggest you spend 2 days as a tourist, and then the next 8 days exploring the forest where the butterfly was sighted. If not found in 8 days, take the plane back home. If you, by a miracle, manage to capture it, I ask you to fly to Harare and give it to my friend there. At this point, I recommend you fly home from there. If an overnight stay is required in the capital, my friend will arrange it. These trips are always a gamble, but to add this butterfly to my collection, it is worth the cost of the gamble. We collectors are brain-damaged human beings, obsessed to complete the items we collect in a satisfying and logical manner. Of course, I will supply all the necessary equipment. You will need to consult your doctor about a trip of this nature so that he can supply you with all the necessary preventive medicines. No visa at this point is required for Zimbabwe. So are you game? Just a minute. Let me look at my diary. Yes, I think I could go next week. Is that a yes? I will need 24 hours to make a decision, as I have some commitments next week. If you do go, I suggest you go through Johannesburg and then on to Victoria Falls. Leave the return ticket open, as you might want to fly back through Harare. My man, his name is Robin, born near Victoria Falls, will be with you your whole time in Zimbabwe. It had been several years since I was last in Africa. My knowledge of the various countries on the continent was mainly in the north, so to travel to the south would be an interesting venture. As I sat enjoying a first-class meal on British Airways, it did cross my mind that maybe George had already planned my visit before I was asked down for a weekend. No doubt, his thoughts were that a free trip to Victoria would not be turned down. I also realized dedicated collectors will employ any means available to achieve their ambitions. In my mind's eye, I could see him spending evenings in his butterfly room, completely transfixed by the beauty of these creators. No doubt this room is where George found a haven of peace from his responsibilities of his daily existence. These butterflies not only were creators of extreme beauty, but represented for George a lifetime of dedicated research and traveling to far-off lands to find the rare specimen. At the university, he had always been an avid butterfly collector, but I never realized the depth of his passion. I remember enjoying myself on various county outings, looking for interesting butterflies. Now, in an artful way, he has got me involved. He must have thought I might be smitten by the activity. The truth of my interest in this trip was Victoria Falls. Naturally, if by some chance I found the rare butterfly, it would give me a warm feeling of self-esteem. As the air hostess passed, I ordered a glass of champagne and toasted to my success. The African journey had begun. First to admire the falls and to search for the missing rare specimen. Johannesburg Airport was vast, obviously with no restriction on land constraints. No doubt, copied from the American and European textbook. You had to walk through large shopping malls filled with many life-size copies of wild animals made out of various woods, clay, and other materials. Sizes and prices for all comers. For a second, I had a vision that this extensive animal kingdom became alive and started to enjoy the sweet human flesh of passengers awaiting planes. Interesting thought. But a chilling turn of events at the airport. I found Robin waiting. The first thing I noticed as we drove towards the hotel was the soft and seductive African daylight with a warm weather that seemed to envelop you in its arms. Also, through the car window, I was able to admire a series of magnificent trees unique to Africa. About 10 kilometers from Victoria Falls, we turned up a small country road to the hotel. There, I found a little patch of paradise. It corresponded to the photographs shown on the internet. Only 16 bungalows that stretched from a central lodge. I was curious to see the rooms that were described as about 150 square meters with bath and showing facilities. Lounging space with a king-sized bed area protected by a mosquito net. The first time I experienced sleeping under a mosquito net was in Barbados years ago. In those days, it just hung over the bed and needed pulling down. Of course, I was unaware of this procedure. The next morning, I had just one big mosquito bite. Funny how certain circumstances, you quickly learn to use things properly. Back to the hotel, the entrance hall and lounges were decorated to an ambiance of yesteryear. Spacious, elegant, and tasteful. The smiling staff treated me as if I had just come home after a trip up country. I had a vision of wearing riding boots, putting my feet up, and asking someone to pull them off. Before I was taken to my room, we sat down with a cup of tea. George's man, Robin, explained why I was here to take photos of butterflies for a London magazine. Before the shooting commenced, we would take 2 days to see the falls. While drinking our tea, the hotel's hostess kindly explained that to walk the length of the falls is a 2.4 miles walk with several stops to admire the view. Also to dry out from the spray and mist generated by the falls. As it was the rainy season, the falls would be near their maximum flow of 2,800 cubic meters of water per second, as opposed to 300 metric cubes in the dry season. We decided to visit on the first 2 mornings. Now to the room. As we entered, I had the feeling of being introduced to Zimbabwe under British rule. This was the state of play. Everything and everybody has their place. I walked through the room to the balcony at the far end, noticing on my way a bar full of all the drinks imaginable. I opened the glass screen windows to experience the Africa of one's dreams. It was a small valley running down to a water hole. I quickly realized the hotel was on a slight rise, protecting it from the multitude of animals slowly grazing their way to water. One could not ask for a more idyllic view. I was to spend a few hours on this balcony, just observing the animal kingdom going about their daily lives. The room was delightful and serviced with all the facilities to make your stay a pleasing memory. I had a bizarre feeling that for the privileged, Africa must have been a very pleasant place. The next morning, heralded by a dawning sun, breakfast on the terrace with interesting choices of food. Robin drove me to see the falls. 20 minutes drive, we were in the Victoria Falls, parking after being heralded by African folks dancing at the gate. Armed with waterproof capes, we set off towards the falls. The first encounter was the noise, the next the spry, and then through the trees we saw the watershed. It is a sight so awesome, it literally took your breath away. The beauty, the power, and the light and mist reflected from the cascade of water is frightening. I was inspired to write a poem in acknowledgement of its beauty. I knew a magazine in London that might be interested in publishing it. The Falls, Victoria, Zimbabwe on the horizon. Across those vast lands, I saw a wispy sight of mist raising for the earth. No apparent panic from the wildlife. A fire, it is not. The nearer I get, a rainbow arching is beauty skywards. Then I heard the rumbling sound like thunder. There, covered in spay, is a mystery and magic that unfolds. Gigantic, awesome water falls from majestic heights, falls in torrents of spectacular proportions, careers deep into the river below. The beauty of the falls is in its majestic power, a never-ending cascade of turbulent water. This power dominates your mind and soul. Torrents of water flow through your veins. You are left exhausted and on occasions wet from the spray. One feels very small, experiencing nature's magnificence. The original explorers never saw the falls from the air. The mighty river in its majesty is a glorious prelude before it turns into the eternal beauty of the falls. One visit is not enough for the tranquility of your spirit. The second visit, the falls were shrouded in mist and stray. Then, by the hand of God, the curtains opened, all her power and glory exposed to the naked eye. In bended knee, you threw your arms to heaven in admiration. We spent the next day at the falls. Their splendor and magic had the same force of attraction as the previous day. On our third day, Robin took me to the forest where the charakt had been sighted. There were plenty of butterflies, and I practiced catching a few. When I let them go, I enjoyed watching them fly into the magnificent trees. Robin was most amused. He told me he had spent many days with George, chasing butterflies. It was my fourth day in the forest, after spending many hours walking and watching the constant movement of these colorful creatures. that we saw the butterfly that Georges hungered for to complete his collection. There it was, on a branch, enjoying the evening sun. I took a deep breath, moved slowly and quietly forward. All my practicing of using the butterfly net paid off. George had provided me with a special prepare box to keep the precious creator in. That night at the hotel, we had an excellent dinner with champagne. The next morning, we left for Harare. Robin and I found with difficulty George's friend in a scheduled part of the capital. He was a taxidermist, owning a store full of the various wildlife found in Zimbabwe. Once, he saw the butterfly that George had already contacted him about. His face lit up with excitement. I never thought you would find it. Incredible. My friend George will be in seventh heaven. Later that day, I said goodbye to Rodin and gave him a handsome tip for all his kindness and help. Sitting on the long flight to London, I thought about my little adventure. 2 days as a tourist, visiting one of the world's great wonders, was like a dream. Then, a few days tramping through the forest, searching for a rare butterfly, had the thrilling flavor of the chase. Completing my mission was a very satisfying end. 3 weeks later, when picking up the morning mail, I noticed a letter from George. He told me everything was in order. There are no words to thank you. When you have a moment, come down to see us. He enclosed a handsome check for my intervention. David Nutt, December 2024. Finding Lucas. He's in there. I know he is, said Mark to no one, kneeling behind a tree and staring through binoculars. He started to count. 3, 4, 5. I can take 5. This was only the people he could see, and he couldn't be sure that there weren't more. He'd have to wait another hour, then go in under the guise of darkness, or risk being caught. An hour was a long time to wait, when all you want is to be reunited. But if he wasn't smart about this, he'd die before he could ever help Lucas. 3 days earlier, Mark and his 6-year-old son, Lucas, were eating cans of beans by a fire in the desolate woods. They assumed they were all alone. And why wouldn't they? When you're living through a zombie apocalypse, you're almost always alone. Mark had been recounting tales about the boy's mother from before he was born. This only saddened Lucas, since he never got to meet her. She died giving birth to him, back when modern medicine wasn't hard to come by, and before the day of darkness, the name the survivors dubbed for the start of the apocalypse. Survivors was a funny word to both of them, since they hadn't seen a single other human in the past 6 months. The last human they saw met his end at the hands of Mark and his trusty 8-inch blade he kept strapped to his ankle. The red-headed drunk had stumbled upon the two of them while they were pillaging an already slim, rationed convenience store. Seemingly friendly at first, he approached them with a good-natured spirit. It turned dark very quickly when he elbowed Mark in the face, picked up Lucas, and made a run for it. Carrying a 6-year-old boy slowed you down mightily, and Mark caught up to him rather quickly. In the old days, Mark would have just tackled him to the ground and called the authorities. But that was the old days. Now, the only justice was the one you served up yourself. Mark stuck his blade directly between the drunk's shoulder blades, and he went down hard, splitting his head open against the pavement, choking on his own blood in the process. He had fallen on top of Lucas, but luckily, the boy had not sustained any injuries. No physical ones, that is. The trauma, on the other hand. Back in the old world, children were just that. Someone's product of love. In the new world, after the day of darkness, children became a commodity. This was because the disease that had infected humans and made them turn into the creatures we so eloquently refer to as zombies affected 99.99% of children. Studies showed, this was when there were still studies to be had, that it only affected about 96% of citizens above the age of 15. This made children a delicacy, a chance to repopulate the world, one human at a time. A modern-day Adam or Eve. 4% of the world's population went unaffected, except for the after effects. After the day of darkness, everyone resorted to killing each other to preserve any food or shelter that still remained. For all Mark knew, he and Lucas were the only two people remaining on Earth. That's what he thought. Until 3 nights ago. Are we going to see Mommy in heaven when we get there? Lucas asked innocently. Yeah, buddy, Mark said glumly. We sure are. She's waiting for us. I wish she didn't have to be there. I wish she was here with us right now. Me too, pal. Me too. They sat in silence, listening only to the crickets singing their nightly ballad and the sound of the spoons scraping against the bottom of the cans of beans. But then, crack. A twig snapped. Mark's ears perked up, but then the silence continued. He glanced around, and all he could see was darkness. His eyes stopped on his boy, his sweet, innocent boy, who didn't deserve this life. He deserved to be a normal kid, to grow up with parents who loved him, in a house with a swing set and video games on the TV. Instead, they were always on the run, preserving their lives. A tear formed in his eye as he stared, watching that wonderful boy spoon a mouthful of beans into his mouth. His son made eye contact and gave a smile, but then his face instantly turned to a look of terror. Mark noticed movement in the bushes behind Lucas and assumed Lucas's terror was brought upon by noticing movement behind Mark. Before he could turn around to see, Mark was knocked out cold. He wasn't out for long, maybe a minute or two, and when he came to the group of pillagers were leaving, they had the boy hog-tied, and 2 burly men carried him, like he was a pig on a stake. Mark went to jump up, but a knee met his back. At least he thought it was a knee. Instant pain struck him. He turned over to see the man's face, and that's when his world started to blur. He had a small knife protruding from his side. "The boy's ours, motherfucker," said the gangly man who was missing 2 teeth. "Go to the clearing now." Mark passed out. That had been 3 days ago. He had spent the last 3 days trying to follow the tracks of the group who had taken his son. He was slow-paced, having limited flexibility and immense pain from the gash in his back. The knife missed any major arteries or nerves, and mostly just caught the fat muscles. Still, the pain was excruciating. But Mark knew if he let too much time pass, the trail would run cold, and he'd lose it forever. Along with his boy, the tracks had led him to a small town. He found a tree to hide behind while he could scope it out. In his satchel, which he was fortunate enough to still have, he always stored his gear 50 or so yards away from his campsite, just in case. He had a pair of binoculars, which he took out and used to get a better view of the town. He knew he'd have to wait another hour or so until darkness fell, but he only saw 5 people, and he thought under the darkness of night he could take 5 people out. He would be reunited with his son soon enough. Night came, and he readied himself. He carried a long machete, which was stained brownish red, having been used on one too many people since the day of darkness. Too many people that Mark hated to admit. He slowly approached the town from the south side, where he saw only one guard. This would be the most crucial. They had firearms on them, and he knew if he could take down the first guard quietly, he'd have a firearm of his own if needed. He waited patiently as the guard did their stroll backwards and forwards. Once he knew the pattern, he took a deep breath and waited for his opportunity. After he heard 3 steps, he knew the guard would turn, and that's when he would pounce. 1, he thought about his wife. 2, he thought about Lucas, scared and alone. 3, he knew it was time to pounce. Mark jumped out from behind the wall, and the guard turned around instantly. The guard went to scream, but Mark brought the machete down rapidly into his neck, spraying a fresh coat of blood all over Mark's face. The guard went down without a minimal thud. Mark picked up the AR-15 rifle and slung it over his shoulder. He was just getting started. Taking down the next 2 was easier than he anticipated. When someone had a gun and they were standing guard, you'd assume they were a trained soldier. Sometimes, even Mark forgot that they were living in this desolate world. And these were just normal people who had normal jobs and normal lives. before the world went to shit. He himself had been a CPA, and now he'd branded himself a modern-day Rambo. The world had changed, and everyone had to adjust. These two guards, one man and one woman, didn't even realize he was there until it was too late. He had grabbed the woman's mouth from behind while swinging the machete upwards towards the man, slicing from the bottom of his protruding gut right up to his chin, killing him instantly when it sliced his jugular. The woman fought, but Mark snapped her neck, killing her instantly too. 3 down and 2 to go. He had to find Lucas. Slowly, he tiptoed around the town, looking into empty house windows and around corners, until he finally saw a fire pit with 3 people sitting around it. They were enjoying dinner and joking and laughing. He recognized 2 of them immediately. The 2 bigger ones were the 2 who carried Lucas away. They had Lucas somewhere, and he intended to find out where. He approached them from behind, AR-15 raised at the biggest of the 3, set in his sights. He got as close as he dared before making his grand entrance. As soon as he stopped, he shot the tall guard sitting on the left of the fire straight through the head. The other 2 were startled. "Don't fucking move!" Mark shouted. They didn't. Both men raised their hands, but didn't dare turn around to face their attacker. Mark flanked them on the left, rifle raised, and aimed at them until they were in eyesight. "Where's my son?" the 3rd man said. "Mister, I don't know what." Mark shot him in the forehead, and his body collapsed with a thud. The remaining man, the 2nd guard, perked up stolidly, trying not to show any fear or weakness. "Where is he?" Mark said, anger trembling in his voice. His finger was pressed on the trigger with enough force that at any second the bullet could discharge. But he stood firm. "Where?" The man picked up a piece of meat from his place and took a bite. He smiled at Mark, then said, "This was his leg. It's delicious." Mark instantly felt numb. They had cooked and ate his son. This is what the world had come to. No, he couldn't believe it. The man was just trying to mess with him. And then the man started to laugh, slightly at first, then harder and more wildly. "No!" Mark said, and pulled the trigger. The man's top half of his head was ripped off, and he fell backwards. Mark approached and stood over his body, then emptied the clip bullet by bullet into the man's chest. He was sobbing as he did it, and continued to pull the trigger until he heard that fateful click, click, click of an empty chamber. He fell to his knees, and that's when he felt the pang of steel press against the back of his head. The man who stabbed him The gangly man with 2 teeth missing was pressing a pistol against the back of his head. Well, looky here. Back from the dead, I see. And from the looks of it, you're angry and taking your vengeance. The man looked around at all his dead friends. That wasn't very nice. Now was it? You killed my son, cooked him, and ate him, Mark pleaded through tears. And I'm supposed to be nice? He was breathing heavily, angry and full of adrenaline. 8 I am? Boy, we ain't cannibals here. Mark got a spark of hope, reached stealthily into his ankle holder, and pulled out the 8-inch knife he kept there. When he could tell the man was distracted, looking at his dead friends, Mark dove right, swinging his left arm up to hit the man's arm and knock the gun away. At the same time, he came across with his right hand, slicing at the man's legs, instantly causing the man to go down, shrieking in pain. Mark jumped on his back, wrestled him fully to the ground, and grabbed a tuft of his hair. He yanked back and pressed his blade against the man's neck. "Your man just admitted to it," he screamed. "He was trying to get under your skin," the man pleaded. "Please, I'll tell you where he is. Just don't kill me. Please." Mark pressed the knife harder against the skin, and the man could feel the cold steel pierce the thin skin in his neck. "You have 10 seconds, Mark said. "How do I know you ain't just gonna kill me after I tell you?" the man asked. "You have my word. Tell me where he is, and I'll let you go." 6, 5, 4, okay. About a mile south of here, there's a village, a bigger village. They have goods that we never had access to. We traded him this morning for food and booze. It includes that whole pig you saw my man eating over there. "How do I know you're telling the truth?" Mark asked, pressing the blade slightly harder. "My pocket," the man choked. "There's a written bill of sale in my pocket." Mark loosened his grip, and the man let in a deep gasp of air. "It includes 2 more restocks of supplies over the next 3 months. Your boy was worth a hell of a lot to a village looking to build the world over again." He heaved, trying to catch his breath, and coughed. Mark reached into the man's pocket and grabbed the paper. He was telling the truth. "How many people in the village?" Mark asked. "I don't know. 20, 25 maybe." Mark had what he needed. "Take the paper and use it to barter for your—" Mark slit the man's throat before he could finish. Blood oozed from his throat at a rate Mark had never seen. The man went limp, and Mark stood up. He spit on the man's back. "Go to the clearing," he said, then kicked the man's lifeless body. Lucas was alive, still lost, but alive as far as he knew. He was in a village a mile away, with 25 people guarding it. He'd need weapons. He'd need rest. He'd need courage. Mark gathered up all the weapons and ammo he could find in the town and brought them into one house. He cleaned everything, loaded everything, and made his plan. He'd sleep, heal, and rest. Then tomorrow, he'd get his son. One way or another, he'd get his son. So today's story has come to an end. Or perhaps it never really ended. There are mysteries still there, questions still unanswered, and sometimes things that seem to only exist in stories can creep into reality in unexpected ways. Are you sure that when you turn off the sound, everything around you will still be normal as before? Or is there something watching you? Either way, always remember that these are just stories, or at least we want to believe that they are. If you like moments of suspense, tension, and breathlessness, don't forget to follow me so you don't miss the next stories. And next time, when you come back, make sure you are ready, because what awaits you may be even scarier than you thought. See you again if you still have the courage to continue listening.